The World Bank position projecting Nigeria's economy to grow by 2.5% in 2022 and 2.8% in 2023, respectively. Of course, the 2022 forecast is a slight upward review from the estimated 2.4% growth in 2021. According to the bank, high oil prices and activities in the service sectors, such as telecommunications and financial services, will drive this slightly upward growth in 2022. All right, let's make sense of these developments now. Mr. Olusegun Okunade is a chartered accountant. He joins us here now. Thank you for your time on the program.
Good morning, Frank, and good morning to our viewers.
You're welcome. Okay, let's look at these now. On the back of the recent surge in the prices of crude oil, the IMF came up with this projection. And so what are the opportunities for Nigeria with this projection, latest projection from World Bank?
Yeah, the projection is huge. If I will take it first from the prologue that you read, that we had a diverse opportunity in the financial institution and also telecoms, considering what the pandemic brought our way, 2019 and 2020. And also the fact that fintech, I think, is the order of the day, and people are seeing areas where they can ease the process of making things to move very smoothly. So the opportunity is there, but like you read, this is a projection. How much have we fared, even with that which you had in the last few years when other people were swimming over the issue of pandemic?
Right.
But the fact remains that we need the willingness, that political will on the path of our leaders who are in charge of the resources to be well determined to make sure that some of the promises in terms of infrastructure and some other things that will make the business to grow and succeed for a common man should just be there. But for me, there is vast opportunity, because with this you have other arms of the businesses, like the entertainment world, like the hospitality businesses coming up, because we are opening up gradually.
But how well do you think we can maximize this? Because if you look at the oil revenue projection or target in the 2022 budget at about 4 trillion naira, with the benchmark of about $62 per barrel and the target of 1.8 million production as well. How well do you think we can maximize this target?
Yeah, we can maximize it if we are determined to do what is needful, and our leaders are very conscious of the fact that it's not about them, but about the populace. How do I mean? An average businessman has his own contribution to the economy. And like we keep saying, the development of the entrepreneurship, grooming more entrepreneur who takes like 60–70%, will definitely contribute to this GDP. Not only the multinationals alone, because trickles here and there makes mighty ocean, but situation where the entrepreneur are not having the enabling environment. I know there are the startups. If you get frustrated as a startup, how do you want to continue? Those who are up there, the multinational, can still wave through the weather in the time of storm. But for the startups, if the environment is not enabled for you to continue to progress in the business, you discover that even the projection that we have will be a very, very daunting task even for us to achieve. So part of the things the government needs to work on is how do we enhance? We've seen instances where we've had ease of doing business. Indeed, do we have that operational? We've had problem with our power sector, and you know, and every entrepreneur that wants to work anywhere, what do they need? They need power. How determined? What is the political will on increasing the power supply that we have to an average person? If some of these things are put in place, you develop the entrepreneur, an entrepreneur that is starting with a capital base of 100,000 and is having the basic things around him, definitely grows his businesses. And with that, you see them paying what is expected to the government in terms of tax to make sure that the revenue increase. Not only should we look in the area of oil prices going on, but let's diversify into other areas, making sure that we can raise our tax base by making sure that other people contribute to the tax net, not just concentrating on the multinationals that are paying this. I think if government should do this, it will improve and the projection will work.
Just before we get deeper into what you've just raised about diversification, and I think that's why the World Bank is coming up with that suggestion that telecommunications and the non-oil sector is the next big thing, perhaps. But let's talk more on the gains that we've seen and the surges we've seen in the international market. This year alone, it has grown. The oil prices has gone up as high as by 8.43%. And between last year, that is December, just about 2 weeks into the new year, we've seen the oil rising from about $81.92 to about $85.16. And so the question is, well, this looks good, really. But there are some analysts that have said that the release of more oil, crude, into the global market by the US and some other nations who are also releasing from their strategic reserve, there could be glut. That means that the prices could go down further than what it is now. And what chances do we have here? And how carefully or cautiously do you think Nigeria need to tread with this information with regard to the current price now?
Yeah, I think what we need to do is to be intentional in diversifying that. You see, it's just the basic law of demand and supply. So when you have so much supply in the chain, and the demand is not meeting up to what you will definitely experience is crashing prices. And if that happens, what is our faith? The economy that will survive at that point in time are the people that have alternative. And we have so much. It's just that we are not tapping into it and government is not looking in that direction. So several times have we said we should have learned our experience, our lesson during the COVID, when we had the price of crude oil crash to as low as entering into negative because activities all went down. What is our fate if such comes to bear? With the projection we've had to say, okay, our budget is relying so much on saying, okay, 60-something dollar per barrel, that's what we are projecting on. What if this crash? What is the fallback that the government are? And that's why we've been preaching the aspect of saying, can we diversify into other mineral resources that we have? So much. We talk of gold, you talk of coal, you talk of other consumables, cocoa, that we even take out. Part of the, I've said this times with that number that I think our problem is we ourselves. Because we have the people, we have good policies, but there's a gap. And there are technologies that we can ride upon. But what's the gap? We lack process. The process is so wide that, and if you don't have process, if you have people, everybody will just be doing things the way they want. But if you have a process, and that's what we've been building, asking for system to run itself. So if there's a process in place that I know that I have to plug this in every sector, you see the growth. Not somebody coming with his own idea and thinking that, okay, this is the best way for me to run it. And the next administration is coming, no, we are jettisoning that. It kind of collapsed the economy and does not give the direction that we need. So with this, I feel government should think twice, considering our experience during COVID, to look at what other area can we tap into aside this oil that we are relying on.
Now, the Washington-based institution is also talking about the fact that yet there's opportunity. They are also projecting that there's opportunity in the telecom sector and other sectors like services sector as well. But then they've also raised some concern, and some of the concerns it's about the ability of the government to curb unrest and violence, and they've also raised the issue of social unrest with the COVID-19 threat as well, which you mentioned earlier. But how seriously do you think the country should take this? Because it's a concern they've raised. They've seen the opportunity in these sectors, but these are also the concerns on the table.
Yeah, I think part of the things we need to do, you see, there's what we call social contract between the government and the people that are being governed. How much have we entrenched into this to make sure that we fulfill the side of it? the last experience that we had, October 2020, was a result of people reacting to, they bottled so much things within themselves. They only looked at a point, a step to climb on, to react. And that is what you see from youth. Right. Not only youth, everybody. If you are pushed to the wall, you are bound to react. And that's why we said, create an atmosphere. Our people are very creative, very innovative. The only thing we lack, if you go to the outside world, who are the people that are behind the scene that makes things happen? They are the key guys who are Africans. But the only thing we lack here is that there are no basic infrastructure for them to ride. Come to think about it, where you have to start thinking how to generate power for yourself. The noise that you get from generator, do you know it distorts your thought flow? And you are in an environment where there is continuous power supply. With your AC, your system is cool. You think straight. And that's why we say, can we up the game of making sure that our power sector works the way it should work? If that is brought to bear, you discover that an average entrepreneur will sit in their closet. The noise pollution, do you know the health hazard? It costs an average citizen with the level of foams that we generate from our generator. Let there be this infrastructure to make sure that an average Nigerian can sit down, sit back, not the ones that will provide water ourselves, will provide electricity, will provide road, will provide all those things. If you put those things in place, it will definitely eat into your capital over time. Right. And if care is not taken, those are the things to transfer into the end users, who are the consumer. So government should try, like we've said, the business of government is to provide amenities, make the environment conducive for business to strive, lead the creativity and the management of the business into those that are called, which are the private sector.
Let's talk more on that sector, which the bank is looking at, talking about the World Bank. I'm sure they've seen that we're not maximizing that very well. If we have to review the second quarter from the first quarter of 2021 till date, how well do you think we're fared? Of course, we've seen that the third quarter rose to about, talking about non-oil export and some of the services industry as well, rising from about 455.4 billion naira to about 462.8 billion in the third quarter of 2021. And so it means that, yes, we're seeing growth in the sector coming on. But what are some of the policies we should begin to look at to ensure that we deepen this sector and encourage more participation, thereby, contributing to the general gross domestic product of the economy?
In as much as people give those figures that so much is being exported out, you ask yourself, how much of the other thing do we import? Because, this balance itself, if you look at the balance of trade, is about your import and your export. You have so much figure. We have figures about what we are exporting. Have we asked ourselves, how much are we importing? And that's why we discovered that our foreign exchange, we put pressure on it, because the level at which we import so many things into the country, even though there is growth in the export of some of the commodities that we have in this country, is not commensurate to balancing your trade. And that's a problem. And that's why we have said, can we look inward? Several things that is putting pressure on our foreign exchange.
It's not significant. The export level is
not significant to the import things that we're doing. Can we talk about education? So everybody, as we speak, wants to leave the country and go and have his education out there. How do they get those things funded? It's via Forex. Everybody wants to travel out to buy as little as the pen that we use in writing. Right. Nothing that we are producing locally. So we can talk about the growth in the export grant, but we should look inward too and say, how much of the import are we doing? So much. And that is why we are not having the significant growth expected, possibly in our reserve or in our balance of trade, because importation outweigh the export that we can do. And as we've said, let's look locally. And that I don't take only to the government. I take to we the citizen too. How much do we believe in the product that are made locally, that we can patronize those entrepreneurs to make things work? And I always refer to the Asian country. They believed in themselves. There are room for you to grow. If some of these things are given, you know, some of these entrepreneurs are given opportunity, and there's a feedback mechanism on how to improve on some of these things, and it's been done. So you discover that some of the things that are being imported, those we can do locally, and that can increase. We can be self-sufficient. Every of the developed country that we see today started by being first self-sufficient with its people, and thereafter push some of the excess that they have to other countries to earn more money. So that you don't talk about we are growing the export, but the import is outweighing the export base.
You talk about the fact that we're not patronizing, you know, our own locally produced goods here, and which of course reminds me of the fact that we have a Local Contact Act in place, or policy in place. How much of that policy are we exploring in terms of implementation? Perhaps maybe that's where the loophole is at the moment.
Yeah, the problem is implementation strategy. It's very, very low. I keep saying it because the process of achieving some of those strategy is a wide gap. The leaders who put some of these policies in place, you ask yourself the question, how much of it do they practice? And we all know the aspect that say leadership by example. You want to patron the things you are wearing. You said we should not buy import product, but how much of it local are you using? Let's go to automobiles too. We have a vast opportunity with some of the companies that we are already doing. I think what happened in Asia, China in particular, some of the vehicles that we're buying, what their government did is to support such indigenous company by first patronizing them. How much of some of these companies that produce automobiles in the country do we have the government promoting to buy them? Rather, we go for those products that are being brought into the country. So the government itself must start that process by leading by example. Take, for example, all states patronizing. I'm sure we will not be able to meet the producer will not be able to meet the demand of such. And what does that create? Other people will know that, okay, there is demand for this particular product. Can I go into it? And you see from 1 to 2 to 3, go to China. Do you know the number of China automobiles that will ride in this country? Different make. It is because now I can see that there is demand for this particular product, and this man is not meeting into it, so I can venture into it. But an average entrepreneur will not want to go into such, because even the person that is carrying out the business is not even maximizing that supply that is making to the market. So you see wastages and all those things. So government should be intentional by making sure that the policy in the area of local content of saying we produce this, we must do this, and it is government that will start. If government take the lead, you see the private sector key into it and patronizing them, and that will give a very leeway to increasing our GDP contribution.